All right, it is 12 noon straight up. We're going to call the meeting of MUD 39 to order. Second item on the agenda would be to receive public comments. Any comments from the public? All right, having received none, we're moving on to item number 3. Consider and act on request for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. None, Mike? All right, moving on to consent agenda. I'd like to pull a couple of items from the consent agenda so that we could talk about them. But I also want to make everyone aware that we are going to be very congenial and very professional, and we're going to achieve our objectives here today, both for the current board and for the future board. We're not going to slight anybody in any way. So I'm going to recommend a couple of changes to the agenda if you guys are all okay with that. But from the consent agenda, I'd like to remove items number 5 and 6. So if we remove those, if we can have a motion on the floor to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
So move. Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. So item number 5, I only had one question regarding that, and that is our financial report. And I just want to make clear that we understand, the board and the residents and the future board. We have an item, other revenue item of $108,500 on this proposal or on this report. That's an extraordinary item. That's not something we typically have. And that's a reimbursement from the SGRA for overpayment from last year, right? And we had some discussion about it, and it was decided that they would return those overpayments back to the districts. So that's already posted and received. All right, so we're $108,000 richer than we were a month ago. Any other questions or discussions on item number 4? All right, with that, we'll entertain a motion to accept number 5. To accept item number 5 as presented.
So move.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion and a second on the floor to accept item number 5 as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 6 from the consent agenda is receive the tax collector's report, including update on the 2024 preliminary totals. 2 points I wanted to make on that is that, one, we have a total of approximately $9,400 outstanding from the 2023 tax collection, which is probably on course. But I just wanted Jeannie to make a quick point about, of that $9,400, we have some people in there who are the 65 and older deferment, right? And then we have one disability that's also a deferment. And then we have several people on a installment loan plan. Is that correct? I read through the report and personal prep. Okay, so of the $9,400 that's delinquent, we're going to collect some of that now, and some of that is on plans one way or the other, whether they're deferments and otherwise. Anything out of the ordinary there? All right, so just wanted to note that our tax collection is good and it's on base. And also in that report, we had the assessments listed, and it is the separate and defined area is listed separate and apart. And there was a $14 million value that was posted on that. Is that just the land itself at this point?
Yeah.
And so then now does that become accessible for 2024 in tax collection? So that's more money we're going to be collecting as a district, right? Okay. So I just want to make those 2 points. Sean, did you want to say something?
No, I think that's fantastic. We have more tax accessible to help pay down our debt
All right.
faster.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Jeannie. Very good job on collecting those taxes. All right. Any other comments or questions on the delinquent tax report, the tax collector's report?
I'd like to say Jeannie's kept it at 99% all the time. You can just see how good she's done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good. So with that, if we can get a motion and a second to accept the collector's report as presented.
Also move.
Second.
All right. Sean is a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the regular agenda item. I'd like to make a couple of changes to the agenda item, if we can go through this real quickly and then get it approved. So on item number 8, we're going to seat the new appointment of Director Dodd. And I know there's a concern about whether or not this board's going to take up any action to spend any money or do anything that we shouldn't do because the new board is coming in. Let me rest assure everyone that we're not going to do that today. So even though we're making changes or proposed changes to the agenda, nothing is nefarious. We're not trying to hold anything out. We don't want all the stuff that's going on at other meetings. But one of the proposals I would like to make is agenda item number 8, B through F. I would like to move them to coincide with agenda items 17 through 22, which is all getting the new board seated and registered and everything all at one time rather than do it once and then do it again. So if we have no objection to that, I think that would be a very clean and easy move for the new board as they come on to just do it all at one time. Any objection to that proposed change? All right. Hearing no objections, we'll move on. The other thing, I think the item of contention is item number 11, where it says consider and act upon a supplemental agreement. Whether we vote on that today or not, it really is not going to matter because the new board can either change that or when they take it to the trustee board can do whatever they want with it, right? So we're not the defining vote there. So my proposal is so that the new board can at least have their say is to move that to item before item number 23. So 22A, I guess, or 22 something after 22. All right, so with that, we will continue on then. Item number 8 is to the appointment of Mr. Dodd to fill the vacancy of the Board of Directors, including the following matters. And we just decided we would do number 1 was to take the oath and get Mr. Dodd seated.
Back to your. You don't have to, but you can say everything you and if you agree. You, Chris Dodd, solemnly swear or affirm that you'll take the execute the duties of office of Director, Montgomery County, Texas, and with the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of this state, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take a seat, Chris.
Come on up.
Chris, you will not participate in the vote on item 8A. Once the current board takes action on 8A, then you will be seated and be eligible to participate in the remaining meeting.
Understood.
So Mr. Dodd has accepted the oath or has presented the oath. We do need as a board to officially appoint and accept Mr. Dodd to the Board of Directors of Mud 39. So with that, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Mr. Dodd.
All right, second. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to appoint and accept Mr. Dodd's appointment to the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chris, I only have one thing to say. Do not let this interfere with your Christmas light display.
I will do my best. It's going to be tough.
All right. Moving on to item number 9, receive the regular monthly SJR report, including updates on operations, projects, and public overreach. I think it's important for us, the board, to get the final presentation because I have a couple of questions. And I think it's helpful to the new board to at least hear it without having to be subject to any questions or anything like that. So they can do what they want certainly after that. But with that, we'll move on. Chris, is that you?
For the new members, my name is Chris Meeks. I'm the Utility Enterprise Manager for the River Authority. I manage the Woodlands Division as well as the GRP Division. GRP Division being the Surface Waters Division. Our report begins on page 18 in your packet and runs through roughly about 20 pages or so. A standard report, there's nothing out of the ordinary within the report. I will just draw to your attention something you're not going to find in here. You'll see in next month's, which is the storm that came through a couple weeks ago on that Thursday. Wastewater plant 1 measured 8 inches of rain in 9 hours, and the instantaneous flow was about 32 million gallons. Average daily flow is about 3.2 up to about 3.4, 3.5 million. So it's almost a 10x increase in flow in that 9-hour period. So I know Eric has some things to cover later on related to the water system that we're taking care of as a teamwork item. But
How did it handle that kind of flow?
it pushed it out. So the quantity was high, but the quality was fine. And so way more than it should have had going through. Our permitted peak is for 2 hours is 18. The 2-hour peak on that day was about 25.6, if I remember correctly. And so basically we're just kept overfilling the bowl, if you would. So no overflows in the system that were reported, no overflows at the plant. It just basically brought rainwater in and pushed it out. So we did make process modifications at the plant, such as turning off the air, turning up some different cyclings and stuff like that, just not to wash the solids out. Because you have that much flow coming in, you don't want to pick up all that biomass and solids and carry it to the creek. So we tried to settle out as much as we could, keep it in the plant, and just let the flow go through it. Plants 2 and 3 had no problems. Yes.
I had a question on plant 3. I saw a Facebook post on the lightning strike. I talked to Eric about it. It looks like everything was handled, but I just wanted to make sure that was addressed.
Yes, we'll be talking about that in our report.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
That's water plant 3, right?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, wastewater plant 3 and wastewater plant 2 had no issues.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other questions? I'd be glad to answer.
Right, this was item number 10, to receive information from the SGRA and Freeze and Nichols regarding a partial rehabilitation net present value. I know we had this presentation at the trustee meeting, and I know it's going to kind of go on a couple more times so that the new directors can get up to speed. But can you guys just kind of update us a little bit in terms of what the information is and where it's come to this point?
Dan, who's going to go from there and introduce David Mott.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Dan Hildebrandt. I'm Technical Services Department Manager with the River Authority. So Chris, congrats on being seated. And
Thank you.
Congrats on the other directors soon to be. So with me today, I do have David Munn. He's a project manager with Freeze and Nichols, who's been helping us on the wastewater strategic planning efforts over the past 2.5, 3 years. So tonight is a very small piece of a lot of work and a lot of documents. So I understand there will be a lot of questions. We are going to make other opportunities to get everybody up to speed and to answer those questions. But the ask tonight stemmed from a request and approval from the trustee board previous month back in April. And this is just a quick follow-up on a net present value analysis looking at the impacts of a potential delay to constructing a new wastewater treatment facility. So I'm going to let David very quickly touch on the documents that should be in your packet. Starting on 39. There should be a table and a chart there. But David,
Yep, we'll do. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you again. Forward to working with the new directors as well. So nice to meet you. As Dan said, I'm going to quickly go through this. I did a more in-depth presentation at the trustees meeting, but do want to give everybody here an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to move quickly, but if at any time you're like, hey, I need a little more information, just pause me and I will, I'll go into more detail. So as Dan said, there have been a lot of analysis and questions that we've looked into on behalf of the directors and the trustees. Just this latest one really had 2 questions. The first question stemmed from if the treatment plant replacement is delayed or deferred further into the future. Currently, we're looking at a planned completion date of 2030. So if it gets deferred beyond that, 18 months beyond that, 3 years, 5 years beyond that, what additional critical rehab and rehabilitation would be required since the replacement is further deferred into the future? And so we worked with the SJRA. We came up with what we're calling a partial list right now. Really, I should have set the stage by saying the second and probably more important question is it a good investment? Is it economically wise to further delay and defer the replacement out into the future and spend the money on this partial rehab now? Or is it a better use of the taxpayers' money? Is it more economically viable to just go ahead and move forward with the replacement? So that is the essential, most important question. I say that this is a partial list and a partial rehab. We think that it is, we have identified enough of the costs to help us answer the more important question for everybody, which is, does it make sense to defer it? But if you were to say, yes, we want to defer, we are going to do this partial rehab, this list may grow a little bit, the numbers may go up a little bit, but we think that we've got our hands around enough of the cost to help guide you in your decision making and help provide the information that you need to make those decisions. So this partial list has 24 items. The first half are items that would be needed if we just delay the plant by another 18 months. So now this is going to the year 2031. And then the second list that we see here, the fourth column from the left in your handout, this is improvements that would be needed if we deferred it even further. Let's say 18 months to 5 years into the future. We started thinking about, but we did not get to the point where we laid out, okay, what if you wanted to defer it even further than that? But if you did, this list obviously would grow, the price would go further up. Okay, so I'm not going to go through these items in detail. I'd be happy to if you have questions. But really, the bottom line is on the next page. I'm going to have you remember two numbers. First one is $8.5 million. Sean, did I see you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, just for context. You said you presented all this to the trustee meeting. Was there a consensus from the trustees on any particular yay or nay, or?
There was not a vote.
Okay.
It was for information only.
Got it.
I think the vote is at this level.
Okay.
It's not a trustee vote.
Okay,
It's a
good.
board level vote.
Okay.
The reason they voted to authorize this analysis to be done was because the funds necessary to fund this work is a trustee vote.
Okay,
That's why it went through the trustees originally.
thank you.
So if you were to defer like 18 months, there are things that are just critical needs out there that Chris and his staff have been aware of for a while, but have not acted upon yet because the plant replacement would make some of these things a moot point. If that replacement gets deferred though, then these are items that would absolutely be needed in the near future. So that list adds up to about $8.5 million. If you deferred it further into the future, let's say 18 months to 5 years, the list grows to an amount of at least $33.3 million. So those are the two numbers that I would have you remember. I'm going to next have you turn the page and look at a chart that really helps us answer that question of, does this make economic sense to spend money to defer the plant into the future? So what we have here is a chart. You'll see this green line. You'll see a couple red dots. And essentially, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is a cost threshold. That's that green line. And if you're trying to decide, well, do I spend my money now or do I spend my money later? What's a better value for me? If the cost of your project falls exactly on that green line, then that means it's a coin flip. It's a one, half a dozen of the other. Whether you spend your money now or defer, it's the same value, let's say. If the cost of your project is below that line, if the cost of this partial rehab was below that line, then that shows you, great, that would be a good investment. It would be the better value for you to spend a little money now, do a partial rehab, and defer the treatment plant replacement out into the future. If the cost of your project or the red dots are above that green line, that means that it is a less favorable economic investment. It'd be a better use of your money to just go ahead and push forward with the replacement as soon as possible and save that money that you would otherwise be investing in this partial rehab. So at the end of the day, that's kind of how you read that graph. I'd be happy to walk through it and explain, what's the x-axis, what's the y-axis, how did we come up with this, what were the assumptions. I'd be happy to go into all that detail if you'd like. But really the bottom line is the cost of the rehab, whether you're deferring it by 18 months, 3 years, or 5 years, the cost of the rehab is above that green line. And so that's indicating that overall, that's going to be less favorable economically. And you should instead just move forward with the rehab rather than investing in these partial, excuse me, let me back up. You should invest in the plant replacement instead of investing in these partial rehabs that you really wouldn't get the full life expectancy out of. So let me pause there, see what kind of questions you have, see what I can do to help you understand the analysis.
Sean. I think while Sean's thinking about a question, I just have a comment. So basically what the economic analysis is showing us for the benefit of the new directors coming in is that the longer we wait to do the same repairs, the more costly those repairs become, right? If it's even feasible to do the repairs compared to replacing the plant overall.
Yes, that's excellent. And just maybe add a little bit more color to that. The SJRA has been in a pattern of repair and replace. You know, at one point the plant was pretty young. It didn't take a lot to repair and replace every year. As we've gone forward into time, the cost of repair and replace is going up. And we're at the point now where, you know, if you think about it like a car that you own, you know, if it's got 3,000 or 300,000 miles on it, and you're about to have to put a new transmission in, does it make sense to continue, you know, investing in that car or just buy a new car? And so that's kind of what the analysis is telling us. We're at that point where investing in a new plant is probably a better use of your money.
I have two questions. I'm sorry, Sean.
Go ahead.
So you'd mentioned that we had sort of deferred on some of this rehabilitation or some of this, refurbishment. How long has that been? How long has we deferred on repairs or things, assuming that this was the replacement was an option coming down the pipe? Is that something that's been last 6 months, 6 years? I don't know. I'm just.
No, it's some of this stuff the SJRA has been aware of for a decade.
Okay.
And at one point in time, it was, okay, we think we're gonna need to do this. It's in the future, though. You know, it's not an urgent point, but it's something that we need to be planning for. And, you know, over time, it's become more and more urgent to the point now where it's like, we need to, you know, fish or cut bait.
So I think I can answer something. So I'm Connie Curtis. I'm the Director of Technical and Operational Services for the San Jacinto River Authority. So to give a very specific answer to that, aeration basins is something that has been brought up quite a bit in most of the MUDs. So just for clarity, aeration basins 1 and 2 have been out of service for quite a while. It was identified in that 2015 timeframe that they needed to be replaced. And in the bonds in 2017, they actually were in there. The design was completed. It was about to go to construction in the 2020, 2021 timeframe when the discussion of consolidation began. And so instead of spending $15 million on 2 new aeration basins that may not be used for long, if it was consolidated and the plant was moved elsewhere, we paused it. Took a lot of the projects from plant 1 off of the 10-year project plan because the replacement of the plant came online. So you don't see a lot of improvements necessarily in the last 2 to 3 years of our 10-year project plan because we pulled them off, understanding that we were moving in a different direction.
Second follow-up question. Is this a zero sum? I mean, when I see the column in blue here, so if we go with replacement, can we assume that none of this is needed? I think that that's a part that I'm questioning. I'm just saying, I assume that there's still maintenance and things that need to happen while we're building a new plant, assuming that's the decision that we pull the lever on. So it's not an either or, right? There's a bit of a hybrid.
The thought process, and I know even for those of you who've been here, we came, so Dan or myself or Aaron Schindewolf, who's an engineer at SJRA, gave the 10-year project plan presentation. And so actually the 2 columns of like the list of projects were in 2 columns in that 10-year project plan. So it was ones to defer for 18 months. So that 18 months is a deferment from the end of construction. So the whole concept of this analysis came about because it was the question of, for the MUDs to be able to fund the project, they may want to do a rollback election in November of 2025. If we waited 18 months to move forward with the preliminary design of this replacement plant, what would happen? And the fact is that left column is one that we can't wait on those any longer than what we are planning to for the end of construction in 2030. So if we delay 18 months, we got to go spend that $8.8 million to put those projects in. And so it's a zero sum, assuming we stay on schedule. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think just to expand, between now and when a new plant is online, you're still gonna have the preventative maintenance, the corrective maintenance, so, if mechanical equipment fails, it's gonna be replaced, so there's costs associated with that are nowhere included in this. This is more almost like capital rehab replacement.
Yeah, so I totally understand all this, understand charts. I like it being in monetary figures. That makes sense to me. There's a couple things that I don't understand. I appreciate you all always being able to answer clarification questions on what a technical piece of the water plant is, but financially, I just want to make sure I understand what the notes refer to in the dollars. So if you look at the 18-month plus column on 19 and 23, I'm assuming there's an answer here, but it says on 19, placeholder assuming $50,000 in purchased electrical gear. Well, 50 is less than 166,000. I get we're talking in millions, and that's pennies comparing to dollars, but that doesn't quite make sense to me. Why we would allocate 166 for 50, and then on 23. Placeholder assumes purchase of 3 pumps at 50,000. Well, 50 times 3 is 150, and we're allocating 45. Again, I get we're talking about pennies compared to dollars relative to millions, and this is small potatoes relative. But if you could shed some light on that for me, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So the assumption here is that these are going to be delivered as part of a capital improvement project where we have a contractor come in. The contractor is going to purchase the equipment, but then there are substantial add-on costs to get you to an operational facility. So the contractor purchased the equipment. There's then installation. There's what we call maintenance of plant operation, which can be substantial here.
Okay, so in, let's say, non-jargonal terms, the light blue column is parts, or excuse me, the source of cost is parts, and the numerical light blue column is parts and labor.
In this specific case, yes.
Okay.
That's what the 50,000 is being noted as.
Got it. I just want to make sure I
Really,
understand that right. I
It
mean,
changes, those are just kind of the source of the cost of the name of the column, just kind of backup information that Teresa Nichols used to help develop those concepts.
understood. Yeah, I just want to kind of break it out of the jargon and got it. It's parts and labor. So labor is expensive. I get that. Cool. Thanks.
So just one last comment on this. So as we go, as the new board and all the new boards and the whole process goes forward to consider this, what's the real timeline? Is there an urgency that they are pressed with? Because there's a lot of information out there, some of it good, some of it not so good. But what's the urgency that they're going to be pressed with? And we as residents want to know this. What's the urgency, right? Can they make a decision next month? Do they have to wait another month? If they wait another month, what happens then? What's the urgency for the collective new body of Woodlands directors, water directors to make a decision?
So if I can touch on this first briefly. With that,
That's about as brief as you can get, David.
That's your limit.
To try one more person from SJRA in front of you, my name is Ed Shackelford. I'm Director of Operations, which includes Woodland, GRP, Islands, Flood Management, and missing one, the Conroe. And so most of everything that you all are dealing with hits at least 3 of my divisions. So the answer to your question, Ted, we know that there's going to be some education of all the new directors that's going to take at least a couple of months. So is there an urgent to do it now? No. But the longer we wait, the harder it is to get everybody back to the table to get the contract moving forward, get engineering underway. I don't recall that it's been mentioned this morning, but engineering is going to take about 3 years to do the design on the plan. and then go through all the permitting, and then another 3 years for construction. So we're looking at 6 years. And you may remember a month or two ago where our folks mentioned that out of a month delay, each month delay is roughly $900 to $1,000, $1 million. Potential escalation cost to the project.
Okay.
Time. So that's part of the reason for not letting it go too long.
Thank you, Ed.
Other questions?
Thank you, guys. All right, moving on, we're gonna move item 11 down, so let's go on to item number 12, receive and discuss the draft 2025 SJRE Woodlands budget. And very brief discussion on that if you can, and we just have a couple of questions.
Tell you what I'll do, I'll cover the briefness, and then Haley, is with our accounting department, so I'll cover the briefness, and then the questions can go to her. The way it's preferred. So what I'm gonna do is, get you your packet, I'm gonna cover the first 2 slides of the presentation. So pages 43 and 44 are the ones I plan to cover, so we start before that with the timeline. And so what we're gonna be looking at is we present the draft budget this month. Next month, we come back with any questions y'all have. We try to answer those. In July is any more questions. We also ask the budget to direct their trustee on how to vote at the August trustees meeting. So present today, final vote at the trustees in August. It's not in 30-day overnight turnaround. So you have time for questions, education, everything else. So start on page 43. These are going to be the wholesale rates that the Woodlands Division charges the most. We are proposing that the water rate is reduced by 2% or 5 cents, $2.78 to $2.73. The wastewater rate, we are proposing no rate increase, so to stay the same at $5.65. On page 44, this is the GRP fee that GRP charges to Woodlands, and Woodlands in turn then charges to the Woodlands. On your bills, I believe it's still called the surface water conversion. And so on the left-hand side of this table, you'll see, or this slide, left-hand side is a math of what GRP charges to Woodlands and how it gets to what we charge the most. The right-hand side of the graph, what you're seeing is the GRP blended rate, as we call it, is that we're looking to reduce from $3.20 to $2.97. And so all the slides after this, just a little bit of the highlights to get in how we got to that number. Also to note, we don't just give you the slides and ask you to take our word for it. We do have, beginning on page 56, for a number of pages, this is the line item budget that goes through the O&M budget, the R&R budget, future facilities, any budget that we have that we look for y'all to present is included in here with the line item cost. And it's also under the far right column. Right on page 56 and 57, it shows the percent variance from current budget to next year's proposed budget. So in the slides, there are some highlights from that, but please go through over the next month, take a look at anything you have, and then bring us questions and go ahead and answer them. But if you have any questions now, please prepare.
Here's that hokey analogy. Here's the water hose, ladies and gentlemen, that you're going to be drinking from for the next couple of months. But Chris, I just want to make the point that in this proposed budget, you are proposing to lower water rates,
Right.
not increase water rates. And you're proposing to keep the wastewater rate the same. And the GRP rate will also be reduced. So all those reduced water rates, not increased water rates, are proposed for 2025 budget.
They are
Okay.
proposing one clarification on the GRP fee or rate. The GRP review committee, outside of one member, has not seen these rates. I actually present that on Monday because there was a deferral on our side. And so Monday I'll present it to them. They have the vote on the GRP fee, the MUDs do not. So they could change and adjust it, but I do not see them changing a reduction.
Okay, yes. Any questions, guys?
So again, there's a lot of people that watch this video, and I always want to try to kind of non-jargon things as much as possible. And this is something that I had learned 2 years ago. The water coming in is at a proposed lower rate. The water leaving your house, the dirty water, is going to be at the same. That is the proposed rate. So again, just to eliminate any kind of jargon. Got it. I think everyone can understand that.
Thank you, Sean. Sean has young children. He has to explain things at that level. So,
Okay.
so that's a good thing. Any other questions, concerns, Chris? Gentlemen, good?
No.
All right, you off the hook? Yep.
Sweet.
Thank you so much. All right. Moving on to item number 13, consider an act on the tie-in district ditch from the RV park in Glen Eagle neighborhood. Any update on that? Okay. And just, you might want to add that to the agenda one more time, at least so the new board can kind of get up to speed on what's happening with that. And you guys can maybe give them a little background on it. So thank you for that. All right, receive the attorney's report.
Nothing that's not separately on the agenda today.
All right, very good. Thank you, Brian. All right, item number 15 is the supplemental agenda in English and Spanish to canvass the returns of the director's election held on May 4th, 2024, and adopt an order declaring results of the election. So we are moving forward now as the transition of this board, and this is what this item is. Before we do that, though, we would be remiss if we didn't thank Ronnie and Jim for their many, many years of hard service to our community.
Many decades.
Decades, yeah.
Thank you.
I say that because there was some confusion in the election process and some, I guess, not derogatory comments because they weren't directed to Jim and Ronnie and specifically, but just incumbents in general. And certainly those disparaging remarks are not relevant to Ronnie or Jim by any means. These guys were here before we were here, before our houses were here, before the infrastructure was here. And they've held true to their commitment to this community for almost 50 years. So with that, as they step off of the board, we owe them a great, huge round of appreciation for everything that they've done and everything that they hopefully will do to further us in the future, which won't be this, of course, but you guys will come back sometime and say hello to us. But I just want to say thank you very much. I know I've worked with you guys probably for the last 20 years before serving, coming to the meetings and talking about different things. And Sean and I have had the pleasure to work with you on the board for the last 2.5 years. So we really appreciate everything you've done for us and all of your dedication and commitment to our community when you didn't have to. So we appreciate that. So thank you guys. We have a plaque of appreciation for you guys.
Yes, to add to that appreciation, each of these say the same thing. There's one for Jim, there's one for Ronnie, and there's one for you, Ted, as well. I'd like to read that to you.
I'll give my own remarks about me.
Okay. Our sincere thank you and appreciation for exceptional leadership and dedicated service to Montgomery County Municipal Utility District number 39. Jim and Ronnie have been both involved since December of 1976. And Ted's is February of 2021, I believe. So appreciate y'all's hard work. I know I'm a newer guy here, but I know what it took to go through all those.
Is the word Cabo in any of
Ronnie, when I mentioned that $108,000, that was a windfall to the district. That's how you're going to Cabo. They're going to write the check. Thank you. All right. So
one quick thing. I know Ted said he was going to give his own remarks. Thank you, Ted. I really appreciate your education for me. Ronnie and Jim, thank you as well. Appreciate all the allowing me to ask silly questions and repetitive silly questions and being support. And again, being here well before I was ever born. And thank you for making sure that my family. Hey, I greatly appreciate the clean water that my family gets to drink and bathe and know that it's done and have a sound budget. So thank you. I hope that we'll be able to continue moving forward prosperously. And by all means, if you have any critiques, send me a text. I'd be happy to take your wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to say for you just something.
Yeah, sure.
You know, Ronnie and I and the other three original members, we were members of the Woodland Rotary Club back in those days in 1976. And Mr. Vern Robbins, who was right up there under George Mitchell, and came down and was in charge of all the muds and so forth. And he was a member. And he said, I need you five. He named off us five and to be directors for a short time. We get members or whatever. And when we originally started Mud 39, it was going to be a business. you know, it was our big company at that time was Eckerd Drugs. And then later became CVS, and later Michelin and so forth. And then later they determined that they needed residents to make the district more successful and whatever. And that's when the residents came in, and it was quite an honor to be appointed by Mr. Robbins, who the street out front is named after him, and Lake Robbins and so forth. And it's been an honor and a privilege to have served this district for 48 years. I was the first appointed to Secretary Treasurer and still Secretary Treasurer for a little while, a few more minutes. And it's been a great honor and a privilege to serve the Harper's Landing, the business individuals and individuals. And I think our deal was that we've always tried to do what was right for the people and the businesses. And we had a great developer, the Woodlands Development Company, and we just had a good cohesive board, and it was great being there. And we had great, our staff here is wonderful. It's always been wonderful, and we love y'all and we're gonna miss you. And we just got friends that we've made for years and years, and we're just proud of that. And this guy right here, we love him. He's a great attorney. And the one before him was Mike Page. He was a wonderful, great guy that's done so much for the Woodlands. And this gentleman back here, the Woodlands, y'all have always been there. Thank you. And congratulations to the new board. We're behind you and just want good things to continue for Harper's Landing. I didn't live in Harper's Landing. I used to live right next door to you in Forest Hills for 45 years. And so I'm very familiar with Harper's Landing, but Hurricane Harvey had a change for me in 2017, so I'm no longer there. But thank you all, and God bless you, and just wish things go good.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, I'm just tickled y'all put my initials in.
Just for your going away
Yeah.
party. All right, so as we step off the board and as I relinquish the presidency of this board, I want to thank the staff. And not just the staff, but everybody who works with Woodlands Water, but you guys are terrific. You've done a terrific job for us, for the community, for the residents, for Woodlands overall. SGRA and the Woodlands Water team, you guys are just phenomenal. So I want the new board to understand that these are your friends. They're not your enemy, despite what you might have heard through the candidate, through this election and all the stuff that's out there. These guys are your friends. They're going to help you be good directors and help you take care of the Woodlands, take care of Harper's Landing. And we, the residents, are still going to be around to make sure you guys are on track and you do what you do. So thank you to the staff, Eric, Mike. I saw John out there somewhere, Maureen, Jeannie, Shelley, anybody else I missed? There's John. Thank you, John. And thank you to the staff at SGRA as well. You guys have been terrific to work with, and I really appreciate it.
And I forgot to mention San Jacinto River Authority, what all they've done all the years, and I have great respect for them. And you guys have always been there for us.
Did I mention the initials? Yeah.
So my point in that is it's a room full of friends, right? There are no enemies in this room. And let this be, I guess, a good point for other boards as they transition, because I understand it didn't go quite so well on a couple of the boards. So, but this is how you do it, right? You're grateful for the people you work with. You give good wishes to those coming in, and you move forward. So with that, let's canvass the election and get the new board seated. Do I have to read this, Brian?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna go through it. So supplemental agenda to canvass the results. So we do have the official results from Montgomery County. We had 9 candidates. So I'm not going to go through the tallies for every single one. I'll just go with the top 3 vote getters for purposes of informational. The full tally is in the order canvassing. The top vote getter, Keith Lincoln, 163 votes. Second, Jennifer Hunter at 159 votes. Third, Catherine Allen with 130 votes. So those are the top 3 vote getters. There were 3 positions available, and so we do need to canvass the results to reflect the results for all 9 candidates, but the top 3 candidates that will be seated today, Keith, Jennifer, and Catherine.
All right, let me sign this and I'm gonna get up and move along.
Kathy. All right, we need to go ahead and take action on the canvas.
All right, so before we get up, gentlemen, we do have to approve this canvas. So we need a motion on the floor to accept the canvassing of the election as presented.
So move.
Second.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Did you get the first and the second, Shelley? You got who moved and who's second? Okay.
So y'all will take one more action. I need to perform the oaths like I did for Chris.
I think that's in here.
Directors, and then y'all will need to take action on item 16 to accept the new directors' qualification statements, bonds, et cetera. Once you take action on 16, then our new directors will come and be seated and participate in 17 through the remainder.
All right.
All right, who wants to go first?
Want to go tallest to shortest? Shortest to tallest?
All right, you have your paperwork.
I think that's it. That's all
Whatever.
I said.
I'm not gonna say that one then.
This isn't filled in, but I guess somebody.
You, Kathy Allen, solemnly swear or affirm that you'll faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of Montgomery County MUD number 39 of the state of Texas, and to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations. All right, who's go next?
I appreciate you asking for hamburgers.
Jennifer Hunter, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Montgomery County MUD number 39 of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the laws of the United States and of this state, so help you God. Congratulations. On page the last page. All right, raise your right hand. You, Keith Lincoln, solemnly swear or affirm that you'll faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of Montgomery County MUD number 39 of the state of Texas, and to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state, so help you God. Congratulations.
And moving on to item number 16, acceptance of the qualification statements, bonds, oaths of office, affidavits of current director and elections not to disclose certain information for newly elected directors. And you gave them all that information, right? So ladies and gentlemen, you are inheriting a district that's very sound, fiscally sound. It's in good shape. We've done a good job over the years. Don't muck it up. That's all my words of advice. So with that, we need a motion and a second to accept the qualifications as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to accept.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, gentlemen, let's go get a beer. Sean,
All right. Thank you, fellas.
you keep them in line.
Let me get a hand here.
Good luck to you.
Do my best. Thank you very much.
Got faith in you. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Remember that.
All right.
Look, don't forget those fires go wrong.
Yeah, get your award. So then this becomes, it's another new meeting. Right?
I have no idea. I think so.
All related.
Yeah.
Tell us what to do. We gotta worry about it. I'm a vet of 40 minutes. So
I know. President.
All right.
We'll figure it out.
How do you make it?
I'm really good at reading on a page. Yeah.
Just Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Authority and gravitas.
Come on up.
Join the party.
Yeah. Yeah, we still have
We got, yeah, 8 or
a lot. We got a lot to do. Got about 10 more line items.
Careful what you wish for. Here we go.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and walk us through items 17 through 22, and then we can move on to the remainder of the agenda, starting on discussion on 11 and then the remainder. So the first item here is to consider the election of officers to the board. So these are the positions of president, vice president, secretary. We also encourage districts to all have 2 assistant secretaries. And so that way, in the event the secretary is not present or 1 assistant secretary, we always have somebody who can sign as an assistant secretary of the district. So y'all, generally know what the responsibilities of each of the positions are. The way the nomination process works is we consider nominations from each of the board members for 1 position at a time. If there's only 1 nomination for a position, we'll take a vote by unanimous consent. That person will hold that position. If there's multiple nominations for a position, we can handle the vote in 1 of 2 ways. 1, we can do a voice vote, go around the table, and each person states who they vote for on the nomination. So, whoever has the most wins. If it's a tie, then we'll, work through the tiebreaker process. We got 5 people, so it shouldn't happen unless there's an extension. The other option is by ballot, and in an environment like this, it's not overly formal. What I'll do is just tear a sheet of paper in 5 pieces, hand it to each of y'all. You'll write your selection on it, fold it in half. I'll pick it up, read the results. How would y'all like to handle votes if we have?
Vocal. I mean, that's what we did 2 years ago.
Yeah, less is more. Yeah, probably won't be as complicated.
All right. So we'll start nominations for president. We have a nomination for president.
Nominate Shauna Pasal.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations for president? All right. If not, we have a vote in favor of Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sean.
Deer meat headlights.
Now we'll move to item number. Now we'll move to the second nomination, vice president. Do we have a nomination for vice president?
I'd like to make a nomination for Chris Dodd. He has 45 minutes more experience, so
In the vet that I am.
yeah.
All right.
I would second that nomination.
Do we have any other nominations for vice president? All right. If not, all in favor of Chris for vice president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations, Chris.
Better in membership, right?
Next item, secretary. I always preface this by saying secretary is where the work is. That's who has to sign the most stuff. So to the extent that your secretary, that's who Shelley's usually going to be trying to track down to sign stuff. So be careful of your acceptance of the nomination. I'm joking, but that does have the most stuff that's signed. Do we have a nomination for secretary?
I would like to nominate Jennifer Hunter.
Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Any other nominations for secretary?
I think that sounds good.
Call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. And we do, again, recommend 2 assistant secretaries. Kathy, Keith, are y'all willing to serve as?
I'd like to make a motion for Keith as a assistant.
And Kathy,
Kathy's assistant.
2 assistant secretaries. Any other nominations? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we've taken care of officer positions for the board. Now we need to move on to item number 18, which is the appointment of trustee and alternate. So trustee is the representative from this board who will attend the board of trustees meetings. The board of trustees oversees a lot of the administrative functions of the various MUDs to, have things have things handled in a uniform way. They also vote on the river authority budget, as y'all are aware. So what we generally recommend for districts is that you have a primary trustee and then you have two alternates, one in case the primary can't attend, if they're out of town, something comes up. And then a second alternate in case the first alternate is unavailable and the primary trustee is also unavailable. So same drill as officers for the board. Do we have a nomination for primary trustee for MUD 39?
Nominate Keith Lincoln.
Okay, very good. Do we have any other nominations for trustee?
I'd like to nominate Sean.
Any other nominations? Okay, then we'll go through a vote. Your vote for trustee.
You're first.
I nominate Keith.
Sean.
Sean?
Keith. Okay, trustee, so we have a nomination for first alternate.
I can nominate Sean.
Any other nominations for first alternate? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, second alternate. Do we have a nomination for second alternate?
Chris?
Sure.
Second nomination. Any other nominations for second alternate? Okay, there are no other nominations. We need to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. All right. That will take us down to item number 19, approval of the district registration form relative to the election of directors. This is a housekeeping item that our firm takes care of for our districts. It's a document that's promulgated by the TCEQ. It has factual information about the district, including who the directors are, what their officer position is, what their term of office is. Now that we have new directors, we have new terms of office, we have new officer positions. We need to update that form with the TCEQ to reflect those new facts. Do we have a motion to authorize filing the registration form with TCEQ?
I'd like to make a motion to file with the TCEQ.
All right, we have a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Item number 20, authorize preparation and maintenance of a local government officers list in connection with conflict of interest disclosure requirements. This is a list that every district is required to maintain. It includes all the directors of the district. It also includes your investment officer, who's your general manager, and Maureen, who handles the investments for the district. The purpose of the list is to have it available to vendors of the district so that when they come and are looking to do business with the district, they can look at the list, determine if they have any potential conflicts with the local government officers that would require them to follow any sort of a conflicts disclosure statement. So we need to update that list since, of course, we have new directors. We have a motion to authorize updating that local government officers list.
I'd like to make a motion to update the local government officers list.
All those, do you have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, 21, training requirements pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act and Texas Public Information Act. So in your packet of materials, new directors, there's a memo in there that talks about training for both the Public Information Act and the Open Meetings Act. There are 2 one-hour courses that you need to watch. There's a link to, there's a website link in the memo that you can type in and go to the website and be able to watch those online. Used to, you have to get a couple of CDs and you have to watch the CDs and bring the CDs back, but now you can just watch them online. Once you've completed them, you can either print out a certificate of completion or you can download one. When you complete them, if you would send those to Shelley, she has a file for each of the district directors, and we'll put that in your file to evidence that you completed the training requirement. The memo you may have given it back to Shelley with your documents. She can get it back to you. I'm looking forward.
Brian, on that, do we have to do it like annually or?
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on next. Good point. So once you've completed it, the good news is you don't have to do it again. It's not something you have to do every 2 years, every election cycle. If you want to watch it again, great. If you're curious about it, goes through why we have to publish agendas, why we have the default rule that all of our documentation is public, as opposed to the corporate world where it's the inverse. Most things are confidential, and in limited cases, they're made public. If you're curious about more information about Public Information Act, Open Meetings Act, the AG's office does put out a handbook every few years about those different laws. And they actually did come out with a Public Information Open Meetings Handbook in 2024. So in case you'd like to get more information, those handbooks have been updated this year. Yes, sir.
I had one more question. I'm aware of meeting in person. What about calls versus text, like group calls, group text? They don't apply. Okay.
It's part of the law is in person. The governor did suspend the in-person meeting requirements during COVID to allow for Zoom meetings, but then that suspension of the requirement to meet in person was lifted on September 1st, 21. And so we went back to in person. There are some remote meeting options in emergency situations, and that's pretty rare. I mean, frankly, I don't have any districts that try to or have needed to use that. But it is, that's available if we end up having a situation like that. But the default is we meet in person. So no action is necessary there. You do need to complete your training within 90 days of today's date. So just keep that in mind. I'm sure you'll have to wait, but just so you know. So no action is necessary on 21. And then 22, conflicts, disclosure statement, reporting requirements memo. There was also a memo in your packet about conflicts. Those check the box, yes or no items on there. If you have questions about any of those items, feel free to visit with me offline. If you have something that comes up in the future that could be a conflict as a result of employment or something else, visit with me. Those are very facts and circumstances specific. So we just have to talk about what the facts are and see if there's anything that you need to do as a director to address a potential conflict. But that covers item 22. No action is necessary on that item either. Any questions on these items? If not, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Sean, to go ahead and pick up on item 11.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at line item number 3, receive and/or act on general manager's report. Eric, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Just had a couple things to go over as part of the general manager's report. First thing is to give you a little update on what occurred related to the storms a couple weeks ago. As you can imagine, a lot of rain fell. I think majority of the problems happened a little north of the Woodlands and east, but Harper's Landing did, in the north end of Harper's Landing did have some issues. The rest of the Woodlands did not receive any flooding, any home flooding. So most of the Woodlands fared pretty well. I think that area that abuts up to River Plantation has had problems in the past, and or at least during Harvey. That's when I lived in Harper's, but the rest of the Woodlands did fared pretty well with the storm. Wanted to give you an update on the chlorine issue that you asked about last Monday. We sent out an email to the entire Woodlands informing them of some storm damage that occurred to water plant number 3. Water plant number 3, if you look at the map, is that square, that white square or clear square up in the orange area in 47. Water plant 3 is right in that area. So lightning hit that plant and essentially disabled the disinfection system in the on position. So instead of stopping chlorine from coming in, which is normally used to disinfect the water, it was open, it closed open. And then the backup system that tells you that it's open, that failed because of the short. And so for a day or so, more chlorine than normal was being injected into the water system. We quickly worked with SGRA, put the notice out to the public. We had all hands on deck for our field crews, as well as SGRA, opening flush valves, fire hydrants all throughout the northern portion of the Woodlands. The Woodlands is made up of about 3 pressure planes. What that means is kind of there's areas of the whole system is one, but it kind of operates because of elevation for pressure wise into kind of 3 different sections. And if you can imagine kind of a northeast southwest line that crosses 60 and 47 there in the middle, the yellow and the orange, that's about where just north of center of that, would be roughly the area that it mostly affected. So Harper's was not affected, which is good. But we were within, so that was Monday, by Tuesday afternoon or so. We pretty much had most of the system back into regular levels, with the exception of a couple spots in some isolated areas. We had that knocked out within a few more hours. So all in all, it was a good joint effort to work with SGRA to get that system flushed. So it worked pretty well. I did want to report that we do have a director's orientation that we're going to be scheduling for all the new directors. So we're going to have, you'll have some choices. First will be June 5th, and then June 10th is another option. We'll be sending you more information out on this.
What was the first date?
The 5th and the 10th, or the 10th, and it'd be either or. Looking at something that's kind of like in the 10 o'clock or mid morning, going to lunch, and then we'll provide lunch after the orientation. We'll do those in an effort to kind of go over, you know, what MUDs are, the responsibility of directors, what WWA is, the relationship between WWA, the MUDs, and SGRA. So we'll kind of just go over all of that. We expect that SGRA will also do a separate orientation as well to really focus on infrastructure and some of the things that you've heard about. And so we'll probably touch on some of that in ours, but more so I want to focus on, you know, what we are as WWA and the MUDs. And today, Shelley, I think's given you a folder. There's some information, starter information in there. There's some business cards as well to get us started. At the orientation in June, we'll go ahead and we'll actually provide you with a larger binder of a lot of information that you'll need to get up to speed on. And so we'll cover that as well. Let's see. We already touched on the GRP refund. We already did the awards. I did want to update the board on the drought contingency plan and the water conservation plan, as we talked about last month. Those documents were required to be submitted by May 1. They were. We received word that they were received and accepted. So we're in compliance on submitting those two documents, and we're good to go there. Wanted to give you an update on LCRR, which is lead copper rule revision. That relates to the EPA's national mandate across all municipalities across the entire country that they must identify their public and private water lines, the type of pipe that they are. And so ideally looking for lead. And that's the main thing that they're wanting to make sure of across the country. So by October of this year, we must create an inventory that identifies both on the public side and the private side of the meter what type of pipe is used. And so luckily the Woodlands did not, from what we could tell, really use lead pipe at all. We do have some employees that have been here for over 45 years that actually put the pipe in the ground. So the EPA and TCQR will allow us to utilize affidavits testifying that those types of pipes were not used back then. For any that we can't verify in that manner or through drawings or whatnot. And generally it's about 1988 or so. Prior to that, it was legal to use. After that, it is not allowed to be used. So the government is, the EPA and TCQ has allowed kind of that as a demarcation line, if you will, to identify the starting point, say, okay, everything newer than that, let's not worry about, you know, and we've got drawings for most of that anyway. And then we'll utilize the affidavits, and we may have to dig up some of the pipe. So what we would do is we would dig up right in front of the meter on the street side of the meter. We would dig a hole to identify what type of pipe's coming into the meter. And then on the back side, going to the home or the business, we could dig that up and identify, is it plastic? Is it metal? If it's metal, is it lead? Which we don't believe we have any, but nonetheless, that would be the process. So we'll be working through that. We've been working on building that for probably the last 6 or 9 months. So we're going to continue to try to get there to be able to say, hey, we've identified it all by October. And then the last thing I guess I had was to kick it over to John Geiger, our communications public outreach coordinator. John handles all the behind the scenes communications that we do send out to the public. And I was going to talk to you about that.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Page 71, you have your communications report. Found a few things within that. We did a lot more with election information this round, just trying to get folks aware of the when it was happening and where it was happening, and pointing a lot towards the county website. So hopefully you saw that information going out. We have a new element to our website. We have a rainfall data summary and map now. You can access that on the homepage, and it links to a map that has 7 different rain gauges, so you can really zero in on your local area to see what rain we got. Nice tool for residents there. On the next page, some samples of current marketing materials. On that Woodlands Water Weekly, if you're not signed up for that, I highly encourage you to do so. That's our constant contact list. We have a couple different email lists. The majority of our emails go out through constant contact, including that weekly email, the Woodlands Water Weekly, which goes out every Monday morning.
Yeah, on the radar map, I was wondering if you had one on the east side of 45.
No.
We do not.
You know, us.
Okay.
Those that.
All right.
John, there is some on the flood control website.
Okay.
Okay.
These are just the 7 that we made.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm in the weather app.
That's really good. Right there. County flood warnings is on the website. They've got gauges throughout the region.
All right.
And some additional capabilities beyond ours. So that's a good
Yeah,
sample.
we can work on that.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so encourage you to sign up for Woodlands Water Weekly. And then I wanted to give you just some highlights from our recent meeting with the Holloway Infrastructure Communications consultant that we've been working with for some time. So we've hit phase 3 of that campaign, which is the implementation phase. So that's exciting. So start seeing a little more production. We've been doing a lot of strategizing and planning. Now it's time to implement. So what we'll see in the near term, we're working with Holloway on and the SGRA, will be development of a website, which will house the latest information on infrastructure projects, so folks can easily find the most up-to-date information there. We'll be forming a citizen advisory group, and we'll be developing customer surveys to help inform our communication. We'll continue to bring forward developments from that campaign monthly. And then finally, excited to
John.
report.
The citizen advisory group, how was that chosen?
So we're looking at probably what would you say, maybe 20 or so folks, representatives from throughout the community that would, I think, represent various demographics, the business community, different interest groups.
It'll be a good mix of the Woodlands community as a whole.
Is that anything that we have input on, or is that just decided by somebody?
No, if someone has interest in adding on, we're happy to have them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is there a process for that? Or contact?
As y'all are getting involved more as board members, you can throw your name in the hat if you'd like.
Or others. I mean, I think that's what you're asking. really.
Yeah, I'm asking.
On behalf of.
Yeah, it won't just be
Interested
directors, it'll
constituents.
be, Community
It
folks.
could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
We want all walks of life. We want, folks that may be opposed to infrastructure, met some that, know that we need it, et cetera, et cetera. Because everybody needs to be educated on what we're facing. And so, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
And when I say we, I mean the Public Education Committee first and foremost. So that's a committee comprised of Woodlands Water staff, directors, SGRA staff, representative from Howard Hughes, representative from Woodlands Township. So we meet monthly, talk about all things public education wise, and we're working directly with Holloway through that committee and outside of that committee as well. But just want to make you aware of that PEC.
Yes, sir.
Eric referenced that new director orientation coming up. I'll be a part of that, and so I'll dig into a little bit more as far as communication goes, provide you more context on any and all that stuff. Of course, please feel free to reach out at any point if you have questions communication wise.
And I will add, the resource that we used to push out that email on the chlorine thing last month, or last week rather, was through WaterSmart. So WaterSmart, we are finding, has an incredible reach and incredible open rate. So for instance, last year about this time, we're at about 19% of the customers were signed up. We're at 45% right now. We're wanting to go to 80 or more. Of that 45% of the whole Woodlands that received it, 83% of the people opened it, which is absurd. I mean, it's normally it would be 20-30% open rate on things like that, 83%. So we're very excited about that resource, but we need everyone to sign up. We need you to tell your residents and your neighbors to sign up, because it's a resource for us to communicate, but it's also a resource, if you don't know about it, to check for leaks in your home. It will tell you if you haven't. It will tell you if you're using more water than you're supposed to be, or than you're used to using rather. So there's a lot of good tool, and you get to set it up so it doesn't ping you when you don't want it to, you know, it can really work for you. Plus it's the main billing pay. If you pay online, that's another thing that we actually have when we're converting over right now to WaterSmart as being the main payment opportunity or payment source on the website, and that is fee-free for the resident. So big tool if you have
Yeah, it's worked great so far. I have it. It's free. You know, I have neighbors that had saved them, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in finding a leak. Once you find that out, you can contact Woodlands Water, and I mean, y'all send someone out to take a look even before just a private plumber, you know, starts charging you. So really great. So yeah, highly encourage it. We've shared the link many times, but it's always good to share it every month so that more and more people get it. So fantastic.
Running toilets, yeah,
they will.
Yeah.
Same thing in my running toilet.
Really?
I got a notification, I'm like, oh, look at that. Yeah.
Works.
Fantastic.
Push that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you, John. All right, line item 24, receive Woodlands Water Trustees Report.
I think we've talked pretty much about that already. The main point in the trustee meeting was receiving the presentation you received earlier. From David Bunn. And as I mentioned, as you asked, there's no action to be taken. It's not a trustee vote item. So, resultant decision that would need to be made as a result of that would be to approve the supplementary agreement that would authorize the engineering, as they mentioned, for that project. But my understanding is there's no movement on that.
That's number 11, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, sorry, 25, do we need to go back and do? Okay. So, do we need to go back and do number 11?
Yeah, just skip over 11 for discussion, not necessarily for action, but I think that was very full with months. Right. Board meeting for y'all. Yes.
All right.
I want to clarify something too, and just make sure everybody understands that when there's an item on an agenda, that gives the board the right and opportunity to talk about that topic. If there's a topic that a board wants to talk about and it's not an agenda item, you can't talk about it. And so we put items on the agenda to talk about. It's not a mandate that you must take action. You can defer it. It was deferred last month. So there's been a lot of rumors that because it's on an agenda means someone has to take a vote. I just want to clarify that that's why things are on agendas, to give the board the opportunity to talk, discuss, make decisions, whatever the case may be. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's better to have more agenda items than less, because if you want to talk about something and it's not on here, then you can't talk about it. But if it is, then you can just simply say, hey, table it, move on, spend 30 seconds.
Are not ready, exactly, on anything.
Cool. So I'd love to chat about number 11 if you have any questions or concerns, or certainly gonna be plenty of questions and concerns.
So there is an offer on it that was made for us to go visit the facility and be able to ask a question. I have a question along those lines, and maybe best for you is under the open meetings. If more than two of us are on that tour at the same time, does that apply, or
Well, so it can, and so that's why if you have more than two of the directors who are going, you have to be, very careful. Otherwise, you have to space it to be at different meetings. What you're prohibited from doing is from attending a meeting, deliberating about district business. That's the deliberation is the key term. Look, y'all may all be friends, and that's a good thing in social circles. You're not prohibited now from being friends and hanging out and talking about social things. What you can't do is get together and talk about district matters. That's deliberation. So if you go on the tour and you're just asking the River Authority questions about the facilities and you're not deliberating MUD 39 business, then you're not, you don't have an issue.
Bill? Any other questions?
And my understanding is, and I don't know if it'll be as the same day as the orientation from SJRA, but SJRA is talking about trying to put together a tour of that facility as well.
Okay. And any other facility you would like. If you want to go look at an elevated storage tank or a water well or a lift station, all the good smelly places.
Well, along with this, can we get, I'm not sure what you have available, but like a system map of all of your facilities and how they're interconnected, and just to get a better picture of the whole scope of all MUD districts and.
Have to swear you to secrecy. Security.
We'll be going over a little bit of that in the orientations, just to help show you where things are, what they are.
Okay, that's very interesting. At the locations, I've been at one a couple times, and it's very, very impressive what we built 50 years ago, and so yeah, pretty neat.
One last thing, we do plan to give you a flash drive that has a number of documents on it, specifically from the wastewater treatment plant, the AC water lines, which you probably heard a little bit about, the 10-year project plan, a copy of your contract with SJRA and all its supplements. And I'm trying to think, there's probably a couple other documents, but they'll be on a flash drive that we bring to you in the June meeting.
Okay, good deal. It doesn't sound like we have to take any action on number 11. It was more of a chat. So good deal. At this point, looks like we're going to go to 27, discuss any matters for placement for future agenda. Anyone? Okay. All right. 28, meeting adjourned.